And welcome back to, I keep wanting to say, America's Voice News, Whiskey Politics. It's a real side radio, and muscle memory in the mouth. And I got to tell you, I'm looking at the chat rooms here on Facebook, and around the country, we've got people all listening to us on 52 stations on GCN and the Salem Radio Network. And this is one of the great radio shows that's out there. And I got to tell you, Joe's really built something incredible here. And thanks to all you listeners that are out there that are listening to me, Dave Sussman, guest host here tonight. You can find me at America's Voice News daily from 11 to 1 each day. We do live news and commentary, and every Friday at 4 p.m. live as well at Whiskey Politics. And hey, follow me on Facebook at Whiskey Politics as well, and at David Sussman on Twitter. Okay, let's get back to national politics and the coup attempt, the coup d'etat, if you will. What is happening right now in Washington, D.C. and the Democrats with this impeachment inquiry? I could think of no better person to talk about this who is really involved in this on a daily basis. Peter Van Voorhis, who's a columnist, he's a political strategist, a media commentator. He really has his thumb on the pulse of what is going on. And Peter, great seeing you last night as well at our mutual friends group. You're one of those guys that when you walk in a room, everybody knows Peter's there. You just you have a presence with you.
I was there because I had a mustache last night.
You did. I'm not going to tell you what the mustache looked like on air, but you look different.
Yeah, I definitely looked a little bit different from the normal beard. So we're just experimenting around with the facial hair now.
Fun with facial hair.
Back from November.
Yeah, fun with facial hair. Okay, so let's talk a little bit here. Nancy Pelosi, she declined to have the House vote for the impeachment inquiry, which means, according to people on the right, that these subpoenas are not subpoenas. They're just strongly worded letters now because there's no there. There's no legal ramifications if people don't abide by the subpoenas. A lot of people are saying, Peter, that this is basically a defense mechanism, that they've tried to take this president out since day one before he even became inaugurated. And this isn't about Ukraine. This is just about the Democrats just trying to find any reason or way to take this president out, even though they're unlikely to do so. What are you seeing here? What is happening?
Yeah, Dave. So here's the thing. The idea that the Democrats actually care about the substance of what Trump did is ludicrous. Everyone, even on the Democrat side, even if they won't admit it, knows that this is just one of a gazillion attempts that they've had to try to take out President Trump before he's able to even finish his first term. They tried it by saying he was an agent of Vladimir Putin. They tried it by saying that he committed some alleged criminal acts with his business dealings, which have never been documented or proven. And now they're trying to do it with Ukraine. So the idea that Democrats are doing this just for a political motive is obvious. And the other thing that I think is important to note is that impeachment, it is not a judicial process. It's not like, oh, Trump did this, therefore we are able to impeach him. I think it was Gerald Ford who said at the time during the Nixon proceedings that, it is up to the House of Representatives to determine what constitutes impeachment. It is up to them. It's basically up to their political whim and will what a high crime and misdemeanor is. There's obviously things like treason and stuff that's really non-negotiable, but on things like this, it's just up to the House of Representatives to decide what they want to do. And I think, the important thing to note with that is that they have tried to do this for so long. They've tried to do it on dubious claims. And the idea that they are going to do that instead of governing, it doesn't put them in the best position for 2020. They're really just trying to double down on, what they've been trying to do for the past 3 years. And unless they build a platform, it's not going to work for them. And this may end up getting battled out in court because, like you were saying, they're not actually bringing it to a vote. It's not like what happened with President Johnson in the 1860s. It's not like what happened with President Nixon or was going to happen. It's not like what happened with Bill Clinton. They're doing it just through these committee investigations like they were doing with the whole Russia investigation. Totally in secret. They're leaking stuff to the press and just trying to cause a hubbub about it to get Americans to favor impeachment. It's clearly not legitimate in this case because President Trump, well, rightly, he's able to defend what he did. You could look at that and say that what he did is incorrect. I could respect that perspective. But frankly, I don't think he did anything that is impeachable. I think you could say you shouldn't do that. I don't think that rises to the level of needing to remove a president of the United States, especially when you spent the last 3 years trying to remove him. That's my take on that.
Peter, what concerns me more than the politics of it, which is completely transparent and blatant, is that it seems to me that starting with Kavanaugh and now this, that the legislative branch is under complete control by the Democrat Party. And the Democrat Party, we saw it with Kavanaugh with the Senate. Okay, and they went after him and without giving him any kind of due process. We're now seeing this with the impeachment inquiry. The Fourth Amendment's been thrown out of the window. And I'm looking at this and I'm thinking to myself, holy cow, I really truly believe that some of these people's end goals is to completely abolish the separation of powers, checks and balances be damned. And you know what? We're going to rewrite the Constitution here because we're not happy with the results of an election.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're definitely trying to rewrite the Constitution. I mean, I think a better example of that maybe that I would use instead of the Kavanaugh hearings, because I think Mitch McConnell still is in control of the Senate. I just think that there was a very slim majority and it was a little bit different case. What I would say is more of a bad impulse on behalf of the Democrats is when they're trying to do that national popular vote compact. I don't even know if that would stand up in court. I highly doubt it would. But it's the idea that if enough state legislatures sign an agreement saying that they will give their electoral votes to whoever wins the popular vote, as long as the collective electoral votes of those states that have signed that compact equals 270, they and they alone could end up choosing who the president of the United States is. Just based on the popular vote, because they would give all their electors there, totally getting rid of the Electoral College. There's a lot of assaults like that on the Constitution.
Yeah, and we saw that also with their effort to abolish the Electoral College. And there's a lot of people out there, AOC and others, that are talking about getting rid of the Electoral College. They're calling it racist, for crying out loud. We got about 30 seconds left here in the first segment here. But I see this as something where their biggest goal is to basically reinvent government. They're not happy with the Second Amendment. They want to curtail our rights in the First Amendment, because if you say something that's going to be offensive, you should go to jail like Tommy Morrison did in Robinson did in England. I mean, this is where we're heading towards if these people gain back power again. And I know that we had a slim majority in the Senate under the Kavanaugh hearings, but if the Democrats had the Senate as well, if Chuck Schumer had the Senate, believe me, I mean, in a million years, Kavanaugh never would have made it through that. He would have been ruined for life. So
Kavanaugh never would have gotten through
right.
The Democrat Senate. No nominee like him would have.
Yeah, and they're chucking out due process. The Fourth Amendment for them is an inconvenient right. And any right that is inconvenient, Peter, is for them at this stage right now, it's just collateral damage, and that's my biggest concern. Anyway, we got a longer segment coming up here after the break with Peter Van Voorhis, who's we're talking everything right now. Impeachment. I want to talk about the future of the Democrats as well. We'll be right back after the break. Dave Sussman here at Real Side Radio. Don't go away.
We lost his right eye, but he flew a flag out in our yard till the day that he died. He wanted my mother.
And welcome back, Real Side Radio. Dave Sussman here in the chair, and we are talking. We're talking impeachment. We're talking the Democrats. And we have Peter Van Voorhis, who is just a guy really with his finger on the pulse, the thumb on the pulse. What do you say there? On what is going on in D.C. right now from a perspective where I really always find your perspective enlightening, Peter, because you always take a look at it more of a pragmatic point of view. You know, we don't get the Fox News or the CNN, conservative, liberal. I think you look at it from a standpoint of, okay, this is what it is, and this is what's happening, and I appreciate that. Last night, Peter, we obviously had the Democrat presidential debates. 4. That's the 4th one, I believe. There's only 8 more to go, by the way. They're doing 12.
There's so many. There's a lot.
Yeah, people, if you're enjoying this, you need therapy. But anyway, the first question.
I need therapy because I revel.
But see, you and I we're diseased like that, right? I always view the quadrennial election like the Super Bowl, the World Series, and the NBA championships wrapped up in one. The presidential campaign.
Just as a quick aside, you know what I tell people, Dave? I say, really, unless you work in politics, don't even bother watching cable news or paying attention to that stuff. Like, listen to some good talk radio and listen to people that you like. But if you think you're getting anything enlightening by, watching Fox News 8 hours a day or CNN 8 hours a day, they're just repeating the same garbage and making you angry. Just go and listen to some real facts.
Yeah, no, and that's what we're trying to do. And I know you're in media, and I do my thing with America's Voice News and my shows over there. The goal is to talk about the facts and the truth as they are without the political spin. And sometimes I find myself, cheerleading one side or another because I truly believe in what it is that we're trying to achieve. And then I think to myself, wait a minute, am I sounding like a Sean Hannity or am I sounding like somebody else? No, there's certain issues that we need to attend to here. And one of them is the fact that the left last night are continuing to display this move towards socialism. And I think that, quite frankly, is a clear and present danger for this country, the United States of America. But I got to ask you, first of all, what is your view right now of the Democrats, the candidates that are running? Do you see anybody standing right now as a threat to President Trump?
I don't know if any of them individually represent an outsized threat. I do think, however, that Elizabeth Warren will end up being the nominee, and we should probably be preparing for such. Her performance last night was not great. There were a lot of candidates attacking her on her health care plan and the fact that the middle class would have to pay for it, and a lot of different things like that. But I think in general she strikes, even though she's far on the left, I think at least how she comes across strikes a reasonable balance to where the progressive and moderate wings of the Democrat Party could come together and nominate her. Whether she will be hugely effective against President Trump remains to be seen, because obviously President Trump has the strength of his personality, he has the strength of the economy, he has the strength of a lot of things on his side. But if the economy takes a downturn, or God forbid he does something actually impeachable, whether on purpose or by accident, or a lot of other factors, anything can happen. Tapes can be leaked. Recordings can be leaked. Stuff can happen. So I really think it's a gamble as to what will happen. I think at this point it's mostly just conjecture. We can only guess and say what's on the ground at this point, and it looks like President Trump will likely have a victory, but we'll see. We have to wait until it's a one-on-one and know who the candidate is. And with 12 people running against him, it's just too hard to tell at this point.
Well, Moody's Analytics, which is a polling service, they have correctly predicted the president the last 40 years except for one. They missed. Except
for last time with Clinton.
2016. You got it. And they are calling right now, in, what are we, middle of October 2019. So like you said, anything can happen, Peter. They're calling right now a Trump landslide.
I read that as well. I have some concern with that, though. The reason being is that entire report was predicated on the economy. And this might not be a popular opinion, but it's factual. And that is, whether you like it or not, whether you politically believe in this trade war or not, the effect that it's having on the confidence of the American stock market is not terribly good. There's reasons that President Trump is pressuring the Fed to change the interest rates around to be more beneficial to the economy. And there's a lot of things that he's doing to, whether you like it or not, to try to keep the economy going. I think it's right generally to get the economy in the right direction. But 13 months is a fair amount of time. And there are several reports saying that when polling has shown that even a 12% market correction, something that just happens naturally in markets, would be enough to make his economy not strong enough to where he couldn't win re-election. So basically, for the next 13 months, you better keep your fingers crossed that the economy doesn't turn down at all. Because if it does, it's going to be very, very hard for him to win.
You must have been watching my show today on America's Voice News, because I said almost the same thing, because metrics just came out today and it showed that consumer spending just went down, first time in a while. Now, it didn't go down a lot. It only went down a couple of clicks, and it may be revised next month, as these numbers often are, and it can be bumped up again. But what it's suggesting is that, and it's third quarter and fourth quarter always bumps up. People do their Christmas shopping. But the fact is that it did stop or stay slow, or I should say stay static, or it slowed down a little bit. Consumer spending is 2/3 of the economy in the United States, by the way. So that is everything. And I am with you 100% on this, Peter, because as a lay economist myself, we are way overdue for a recession. I don't care who the president is. 7 to 10 years is the average for a contraction and then a recession in the market. And we haven't had one since 2008, 2007, 2008. We're now going on 12 years. So I think that whether I was surprised we didn't have a recession in 2016, 2017. I thought we were due. So are you deeply concerned that the economy teeters a little bit here before 2020? And if it does, it will impact the election? I mean, I don't know. I hate to ask you to be a Sussman, a prognosticator here, but how worried are you about it?
I'll prognosticate for you. I do not believe that anyone, not even the best economist in the world, could ever predict what the market will do. I think it's completely random. There are obviously factors that go into it, but what it does, it just does, and we're not able to predict it. Okay. The Keynesian economists have obviously failed in that. What I do know is that the chances in 13 months of having a slight dip in the economy, especially with these trade war pressures, are great. How great they are is to be determined, but 13 months is not like 2 months. It's not like, in 60 days we just need the economy to be good. It's no, 13 months, and the economy all the time goes up and down little bits. That little bit of downturn could cause President Trump to lose re-election because he won, I believe it was Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania by a combined 77,000 votes combined. Yeah. He has to win all those states, and it's gonna be tough for that reason. But I think if the economy stays strong, he will win. I really do.
Yeah. In our last 2 minutes here, Peter, going back to impeachment, and, I think they tried to put the genie back in the bottle yesterday by saying that there's no impeachment vote coming. And, you listen, they needed to act swiftly on this thing and accurately, and they needed to take this man out as quickly as possible so they can get back to the election. If it doesn't happen, what is the ramifications for the Democrats next year?
Well, it's not a question of it not happening. It can't happen. You would need 67 votes in the Senate to convict President Trump, and that is absolutely not going to happen. So it will not happen.
But let me just say this: Clinton is impeached as a president because the House impeached him. He did not get convicted by the Senate. They want to brand this president.
That was by like one vote, and he actually did something. He did commit perjury.
Right.
It's different, but I get what you're saying.
Right. Do you think this hurts the Democrats next year, though, or does it help them?
I think it hurts. I think it hurts the Democrats because while they're in the impeachment frenzy, they are not going to be going out and creating a coherent policy platform. While I disagree with it, they could make the case that healthcare, a better environment, looser immigration, and other things are good for America, and they could sway those middle-of-the-road voters. But instead of doing that, they're going and literally being the thing that President Trump accuses them of being, which is absolutely hysterical, absolutely in collusion with the mainstream media, and now I will say, after seeing all this Russiagate stuff, in collusion with the deep state, if you want to call it that. The people in the intelligence community and the bureaucracy who want to keep things as the status quo. And if you are against that, they will try to take you out. I don't think it's a conspiracy. I just think it's what happens when you try to take away people's power. And I'm not surprised to see it happening.
Gotcha. Peter Van Voorhis, you can be found at petervanvoorhis.com. And any social media you want to throw out?
Just Peter Van Voorhis for everything.
Peter Van Voorhis for everything, folks. Follow this guy. He is somebody that you definitely want to follow, and I appreciate you coming on, my friend. We'll see you soon, Peter. And, folks, I'll be back after the break to wrap it all up. Stay tuned. Don't go away. We'll be right back at Real Side Radio. Good being with you guys tonight. I'm really enjoying myself, and I cannot believe this is the last segment of our 3 hours. So for those in the chat rooms, appreciate you sticking through and listening to our incredible guests and my humble commentary. But I got to tell you, and these are my final thoughts of the evening for you. Nikita Khrushchev, he once said that America would be destroyed from within. He said it. He said the United States would eventually fly the communist red flag, and the American people will hoist it themselves. Think about what we saw last night. Think about that debate. Think about what we're seeing right now that's happening in the American left. I said the words, the socialism on the left as it stands right now with the AOC +3 and the squad and these Democratic candidates on the dais as a clear and present danger to the United States. But I'm watching this last night, and, I have to unfortunately watch it because I got a report on it every day. America's Voice News, America's Voice Live. Find us from 11 to 1 each day, Pacific time. But each of these candidates seemed absolutely clueless as to the world that everybody else has been living in for the past 3 years. If you watched those debates last night, it sounded like we were in 1929, 1930s depression. The fact is that, the economy may slow a little bit, but we've got an incredible economy right now. It's the lowest unemployment in decades. International trade is being renegotiated right now to our benefit. Millions and millions and millions of people are no longer on food stamps. Our military, which President Obama came in and absolutely eviscerated, is being built up again. It's being repaired. Manufacturing in the manufacturing states that voted for President Trump is being revitalized. And we are also, for the first time in a long time, focusing on the border and the immigration debate, which is long overdue. We have the intransigence from the Democrats who, not more than 7 or 8 years ago, called illegal aliens, and now they're for abolishing ICE. The wall is being built. These things are happening right now on the ground. Everything this president has done has been effective. Everything this president has done has been checking off the promises that he made as a candidate. And as somebody, and if you've been listening to me for a while, you know that I went in to the voting booth in 2016 with my fingers crossed just because he wasn't her. I had no idea that he was. I was hoping, we all hope, but I didn't expect him to push through judicial appointments of the conservative variety that the Federalists wanted. And from the day after November the 6th or whatever the date was of the last election in 2016, I think it was November the 8th, the Democrats have been vicious. They've been vitriolic. They have essentially become unhinged. And we're seeing it in the daily news. We're seeing it on the mainstream news. We're seeing it on the news channels. And it is now led up to what we're seeing as far as presidential candidates that are running for the nomination for one of the two major parties of this country. And they are representing an extreme, I don't even want to call it left anymore. You can call it progressive, but it is a socialist vision for this country. While many of us are really grateful that this is a president that is able to fight back, and I don't know many politicians that would be able to withstand this Gatling gun, this barrage of hate and attacks by the left, this contempt for Trump supporters, for you if you support this president. I don't know any president or any politician that could withstand this. This president is trying to do what he promised to do, and he's trying to drain the swamp. And I believe it is that reason that this impeachment inquiry is pushing forward, because we've got the IG report that is dropping any day now, probably by Friday, that is going to start naming names all the way up to President Barack Obama. Don't think for a moment that the Steele dossier and the FISA memo and everything that happened in Ukraine isn't going to have the fingerprints of the Democrats, Hillary Clinton, and Barack Obama on it. And the CIA, the cohorts, the Brennans, they're in trouble. They're worried. And Nancy Pelosi, for whatever your opinion is of her as a politician from policy, and I'm sure you disagree with her, 99.9% of the time. You have to give her credit for being a tactile politician. You don't become Speaker of the House twice in a lifetime without knowing what you're doing. And for her to push this impeachment inquiry 24 hours before a transcript that comes out that debunks the reason for her to push this impeachment inquiry is a red herring. I'm sorry, I'm telling you this right now. This Adam Schiff show, that's what it is. It's a Schiff show. Is a diversion. It's a squirrel. Because they know that what's going to happen is that when this IG report comes out, they are praying that the mainstream media isn't going to read it to their viewers. The Democrats are concerned because they are losing. Trump, his supporters, they're victorious right now on every issue. And go back to what we were just talking about in the last hour with John. Even on Turkey and Syria, this thing can work out and can make Trump look like the non-interventionist president that he claimed to be, and it will work out for the region without losing blood and treasure on the ground of American lives. He seems to be ahead of his opponents on almost every single issue here. And the Democrats are petrified. The Democrats know that outside of the 600,000 people watching CNN and the roughly 2 to 3 million people watching MSNBC, in other words, their base, that the other 322 million people that live in the United States like having jobs. They like their family and friends having jobs. They don't want to soak the rich. You know who they're working for? The rich. The rich started companies. They became corporations. And now, thankfully, I've got a job. I don't want to tax these people into closing down companies. But that's what the Democrats are standing up there talking about last night. They want to create trillions of dollars of entitlements so that 70-80% of this country don't have to worry about work. What does that do to the human condition? What does that do to people's incentive and their motivation to get up in the morning and make their world a better place? You want to know what it looks like? Take a look at Venezuela. Take a look at 1980s Russia. Bernie Sanders himself said breadlines are good. I'm quoting him. This is a man that honeymooned in Russia. But these Democratic presidential candidates, they want to punish you. They want to punish you. And the way that they can punish you is by being a totalitarian. They want to tell you what to think. They want to tell you what to say. They want to tell you what to drive. They want to tell you what to eat. They want to tell you how you can work, how you can not work. And this is their vision. And I'm telling you right now that unless you like communist China, unless you like the gulag, that is the end game for these people. This will not win. And they know it. They are flailing right now. And we saw this last night. When was the last time you heard a Democratic candidate talk about freedom? When was the last time you heard a Democratic candidate talk about, liberty? You don't hear them saying those words. Those words are anathema to them. And you should, if you are on the line right now and you're not too sure, maybe you don't like this President Trump, listen to what these people want and then take a look at countries around the world that have what they want and ask yourself, do you want to live there? No, you're living in the United States. And for right now, it is still the best country, and it is the economic beacon of the world. Ben Franklin warned that if we've been given a republic, if we can keep it, that we've been given a republic, if we can keep it. He knew that the totalitarians were only 1 or 2 election cycles away of taking it back. Thanks for joining me tonight, folks. Dave Sussman. You can follow me at David Sussman on Twitter. Find my Facebook page, Whiskey Politics and The Dave Sussman Show. And check me out on America's Voice live each day from 11 to 1 Pacific time at America's Voice News. Thanks, Joe, for having me. Thank you, Cody and Tammy. And I'll be back again soon. Cheers.